Hi, Paul Waller, and we're taking a look today at Traktor Pro 2 for the beginner from Native Instruments. This is the de facto professional digital DJing application. So when most people look at Traktor, they find it quite busy and confusing, but it's actually incredibly simple. So let's have a look at how to use Traktor 2. So if we look down in the bottom of the screen here, we can see our browser. We can select any music that's attached to any hard drive or on the internal hard drive of our computer, and this is where we will find all of our music therefore. So let's select a tune and drag it onto deck A. Okay, so as soon as we drag it onto deck A, you see that a waveform appears for the tune, which is really, really useful, and you can see these little white lines at the beginning of every beat. This is called a grid, a beat grid, and in Traktor Pro 2 it finds the grid for you automatically and intelligently and is very, very good at doing this. So the next thing to do is to play the tune, and let's find out how to count along with music, because this is going to be really important. So let's play the tune. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how we count along with music, and hopefully you can see that the white lines on the grid show us where to find the counting points. So first of all, we now want to select a place that we wish to start the tune from. That's called a cue point. So let's set a cue point. Okay, there's our cue point at the very beginning of the tune. So if we hit play. Now, we can select various cue points. We can actually store up to 8 cue points. So let's select another cue point. So,
hey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's her, but it wasn't like that back when I met
complicated
her.
cue point.
Yes, sir.
Let's look for an easier one with a bass drum on it.
Wasn't like that back when I met her.
You heard the bass drum start there on the 1. So we can make that cue point 2. As you can see along the bottom of the deck there are up to 8 cue points that we can store, so that we can easily switch between these different cue points. The next thing to look at is how we can actually loop cue points by setting an in and an out cue. In, there's an in, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There you go. There's our out cue point. We've now created an 8-beat loop, and you can see that within the cue points the waveforms turn green to show us that we are looping. We can change the length of the loop and create some pretty well-known effects that DJs use loads. Sure you're familiar with that sound? Okay, so that's setting cue points and looping. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now what we're going to do is make this deck, deck A, the master deck. What this means is that deck B and any other decks that we use will sync to this master tempo. You can see that the tempo of this tune is 124 BPM. And what we can now do is drag another tune onto deck B. There it goes. And if we press the sync button on there, we can play that, and you can see that this is now locked to 124 BPM in tempo. With the crossfader in the middle, we'll hear both decks. So if we hit play on both, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There you go. Obviously we can move the crossfader around to hear more or less of one deck or another, or just one deck. Really, really simple stuff. So already we sound like a professional DJ. So now I'm going to set a loop on deck B. 4. There we go. And store it. That's now stored as number 3. Sometimes when we load a tune in, it won't be perfectly in time with what's already loaded on deck A. I'm talking in terms of deck A and deck B at the moment, but we're actually going to look at using 4 decks in a short while. If it's not completely in time, we can just go up to these little arrows. Let's just make it out of time a bit. There we go, that's out of time. You can see that yellow line above the waveform is jumping around. All we have to do to get them perfectly in time is just drag that to its central position. There you go. That easy. So in instances occasionally where you do load a tune and it doesn't sound perfectly in time with the other, that's your simple solution. Okay, so we've looked at using 2 decks, getting loop points, setting cue points and loop points. Let's now take a look at the mixer. What can we do with the mixer? We've seen the crossfader. I think most people are familiar with the crossfader. So now let's look at what else we can do with the mixer. Okay, you can see that we have individual volume controls for each deck. Sometimes a tune on, shall we say, deck B will be louder or quieter than the tune on deck B. We can adjust the levels there. Okay, we also have what's called key. This will put things in tune with each other, or for that matter, take them out of tune for those kind of sped up vocals, slow down vocal effects that we like. Okay. We also in the middle have an EQ section, 3 bands of EQ for each deck. We have high, mid and low, and we have really handy kill buttons. So for instance, we can kill the bass. A very, once again, very popular effect that I'm sure you've heard before. So we can actually very quickly just kill certain frequencies in the mix. We can do that with the mids or highs too. Over to the left of deck A's EQ section is a filter. Another very popular effect that you're probably familiar with. Let's play with that. Okay. There are many more effects available in Traktor, so if we go up to the top left of the screen we can see our effects section. Now importantly, in the middle section we have to have our dry-wet balance. This is the balance between no effect and effect. If we have that at least 50% up, we should hear our effect nicely. And let's play with the delay. Not hearing that too well, are we? Let's see what we can do about hearing that a bit better. There we go. You can definitely hear that. Some reverb, delay, some delay. So if you click on the tab where you see the word delay written, you can see a huge choice of great effects. Loads of these will be familiar to you from when you heard of people DJing. So that's our effects section. What we'll do now is get bold and go to 4 decks. Here's your preferences. There we go. So let's just select 4 decks. Now, we just have to reassign the outputs when we do this, so don't try and do this live in a club. There we go. We've reassigned the outputs. We now have, as you can see, 4 decks. Let's put the mixer back in, and there we go. So let's see what kind of thing we can do with 4 decks. Now, interestingly enough, on deck A, you can see a red flashing. That's telling us that we're getting close to the end of that tune, which is a great handy little thing. Always make sure that if you see that red flashing on the waveform, that you are aware that the end of the tune is approaching. So let's have a look at what we can do with 4 deck mixing. A lot of people wonder why we may want to mix with 4 decks, but mixing with 4 decks is a really creative process. So let's see what we can do. There you go, that's nicely out, but we've synced it, and as you can hear, that fits in really nicely. Set a loop for deck C. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, sir. Hey.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Hey. Yes, sir.
And there you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But it wasn't like that back when I met her.
Chord X is really, really, really good stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But it wasn't like that back when I met her. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But it wasn't like that back when I met her. There's something about this girl, man. From around my way. Every time I go back, you feel it. Put it just one take. And I finally found words.
Last thing we want to look at is recording a mix. We can record a mix and send it straight to SoundCloud, stuff like that. Or we can record it, bounce it down as an audio file, put it on CD, whatever we want to do really. So let's just have a look at how we can record. See this little cassette icon over here on the right? Yep, it's kind of an odd little icon to use, but if you click on that, you see that our record section shows up. Hit the record button. Simple as that, we're now recording to disc. Mix is getting a bit chaotic here, of course, but on that subject, I do have to say that it's pretty important that you practice your set a lot. It wouldn't really be worth recording something until you practiced it a lot. But once you've practiced it, the great thing is you can just jump straight into record mode. As I say, you can publish it straight to SoundCloud from Traktor. That kind of stuff. I hope I've been of some use to you. Cheers.